So 6 years ago, I read Impro by Keith Johnstone. Keith, along with Viola Spolin and Del Close, is one of the three foundational thinkers in improvisational theater. This, as it turned out, had a profound impact on the way that I work, which is kind of weird because I'm a software engineer. Right? So let me explain. Right? What it did is it led me to this group, the Ventura Improv Company. We perform every Friday and Saturday night at Main and Palm in Ventura. And we also I've joined up with a group called Instant Karma. We're actually going to be performing here in Santa Barbara at Center Stage Theater at the end of the month. There's some flyers in the back if you're interested. I can explain a little bit more. But what I've learned is that improvisers are like Bruce Lee. I say this not just so that we sound badass, but because it's really true, right? People come up to me after shows and they say, I could never do improv because I can't think that fast, right? And I tell them, I can't either, right? Because thinking on stage gets you in trouble, right? So what you have to do is you have to respond on instinct, right? So just like martial artists, improvisers spend a lot of time building those instincts, right? We work hard to figure out the habits and the techniques that help us work together. We come up with rules that help us guide us towards good performance. I know it sounds kind of weird to talk about rules for improv, but I mean, that's what happens, right? Now, unsurprisingly, there's a lot of different theories and schools of thought about what these rules should be. This is one of my favorite sets. This is from a guy named Dave Morris from a TED Talk he did at TEDx Victoria. I think these are so fundamental to working together on anything. This is actually the back of my business card. And I want to talk about three of them here today. The first one is listening, right? What improv has taught me is that listening is expressing a willingness to change, right? How many times have you heard somebody say, you're not listening to me, right? Not because the person isn't hearing the words that they're saying, but because they're not expressing a willingness to be affected by what they're hearing, right? So when I started doing improv, I'd see where I wanted a scene to go, right? I have a strong storytelling instinct, and my ideas I think they're pretty good. That's not the problem. Remember how I said that thinking on stage is bad, right? The problem is that when I would start thinking, I would stop listening, right? And I wouldn't be willing to be changed by what was actually happening in the scene, because I was in love with what was in my head, right? And the result was a lot of crap, right? If you've ever seen a bad improv scene, you're probably familiar with this. It's two people on stage near each other, not actually doing a scene with each other. This is what happens when we fail to listen, to be changed by what our partners are giving us, right? Now, people make the mistake of believing that following a plan creates order, and that the only alternative to that is chaos, right? In reality, it doesn't create order, it creates rigidity, right? And I've learned that the alternative isn't chaos, it's adaptability, which is important when you get punched in the face, right? But to be adaptable, we have to build the right kind of instincts. So what does this mean for me as a software engineer, right? It means going into a meeting not feeling like if we don't come out with my answer, that we've failed. And that's been pretty hard because I've actually been leading a big change effort at work, and I'm supposed to be the expert, right? I got over it, right? I learned, like I eventually learned in improv, that I need to trust my partners, right? That I need to trust the process. I learned to accept that the answers that we come up with there in the room, right, are the answers that we need in that situation at that time, right? They only come if we're willing to listen to each other and to be changed, right? Now, I've talked a lot about trusting the process, right? And these two rules are really the process for improvisers, right? Say yes and say and. We build on the other person's ideas and we give it back to them, right? This is the essence of collaboration. People often misunderstand what these mean, so I want to talk about them a little bit, right? Yes means appreciation, encouragement, acknowledgement, and respect, right? It doesn't have to mean agreement, right? There's all sorts of conflicts in improv scenes, but those conflicts are built by the improvisers saying yes to the ideas that their partners are bringing. And means building off of, adding to. It's about moving forward, right? I hear a lot at work, I just can't say yes to all these ideas. Some of them are bad, right? Using yes and isn't about agreeing to everything. It's about learning to say, what I like about that idea is, right? And taking that and building on it. Expressing a willingness to be changed by what people are saying. Because this is how we form Voltron, right? Everybody know who Voltron is, right? The 5 lions come together to form the giant robot to defeat the enemies they can't defeat as individual lions. This is what collaboration is. It's not about working near each other, it's about working with each other. Saying yes is what lets us solve these complex problems, right? So in order to do this, I found I have to trust that my coworkers are reasonable people, right? That they have reasons for what they do. It means that I have to treat resistance to change as an opportunity to find out what is it that's important to that person. What are they protecting? What it is they don't want to lose, right? And this is particularly tricky in my world, right? In software, where we design structures so that we don't have to trust people or talk to people, right? We create interfaces and APIs and silos of workers organized in functional rows spread across the world, right? In the hopes that we can get away with not having to collaborate. But those structures have a cost, and increasingly we're finding those costs are not worth paying. So my experience has taught me that if you're going to trust your structures and trust your process, you need to design ones that work for you, that allow you to be adaptable in the face of an uncertain and changing reality, right? So a lot of the work that I now do is about teaching people to help build emergent architectures, right? To do iterative and incremental development. I'm doing a lot of work in meeting facilitation and working on helping get people work together, because ultimately, in any human endeavor, it's not a technical problem that we really have to solve, right? We've got the right people. We have to build the right processes, we have to build the right structures, the right habits, so that we can all work together. Because ultimately, improv has made me a better software engineer by teaching me how to be Bruce Lee so we can form Voltron.
Thanks again, Paul. Next up is Lori Ann David to wrap up the evening. Lori Ann